What's up, Gruntworks Nation? The Big Earl is always asking, why is China hoarding food? Experts say that China is hoarding a massive amount of food. They will soon have over two-thirds of the globe's corn reserves, over half of its rice, and over half of its wheat. But when asked about it, China lies. One China expert says they, of course, will never admit to something like that. Well, what does China know that we don't? When it comes to global food shortages, China is the canary in the coal mine. You see, China is the world's number one food importer. They rely on the rest of the world to keep their people fed. So they can't afford to mess up, or there will be riots, civil panic, or even worse, when over a billion people can't eat. What does this mean for Americans like you and me? Two words: food shortages. That's why it's a smart idea to stock up on a kit of best selling Four Patriots survival food. Create your own stockpile of the best selling Four Patriots survival food kits, hand packed in the USA. The kits are compact and stack easily. They have different delicious breakfasts, lunches, and dinners. And their 5-star reviews on the website rave about the flavor and the taste. Right now, you can get 10% off your first purchase of Four Patriots survival food by typing in the code VTTGW at checkout. Just go to 4patriots.com and use the code VTTGW to get 10% off your first purchase of Four Patriots survival food. That's 4patriots.com. Use the code VTTGW.
Hey, what is up, Mental Health Nation? This is Cliff and your co-host Lynn. Lynn, how you doing today?
Hey Cliff, I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
Oh yeah, I'm super excited about today's show. But hey, real quick before we jump into it, the Four Patriots. What a great company. So proud to have them part of our family, and be sure and go out and get those supplies. Winter's coming, and so you better be prepared for that. And it's always good to have those supplies there, and it's so very important. But hey, listen, if you are listening to the podcast and you'd like to re-listen to it again, Reads Across America Radio does replay my podcast at Fridays at 8 p.m. and Sundays at 10 p.m. Super easy to find. You just download your favorite app, the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn app, or the Odyssey app. You search for Reese, and Reese Across America Radio comes up, and you just click on it, click follow, and then you can watch not only my program, but all the great program they have on this show. I'm super excited. I'm going to talk about the show today. Before we dive into it, kind of give you guys a breakdown of what's been going on with me. Of course, I'm within probably 3.5 weeks of my move to Italy. And so that's kind of winding down with the final moves coming up. And then for last week, I was at Hampton Sydney University. I did a speaking event there, and I'll dive into that a little bit. I was super excited to go down there and tell my story of hope to the students and faculty there. And it turned out to be a really great event. It was at night. A lot of students showed up. They did it later in the night so the athletes could come to the event if they wanted to, and actually quite a few showed up. This T-shirt, the "Quit Being a Trigger Pansy" shirt, was one of the most popular T-shirts. Sold several of them there. The college kids really liked it. And then after I ended that event, I went to a big car show down at Virginia Beach, which was one of the first national car show events that I've been in with the Mustang. And so I'll talk about that. But Lynn, I discussed what's on my plate. What's going on your plate?
All right, so I think the last time we talked was around Veterans Day
Hmm.
week, and so during that weekend, I had a great resource fair event. So if you're out there and you're looking for like jobs, or you're looking for networking opportunities, looking for different veteran groups or resource fairs is a good way to get yourself out there. And so I was out there promoting Irreverent Warriors and our
Hmm.
hikes, and it was a good time. It was at a brewery, so it's called Vets on Tap. So VETS on Tap. It's a really good resource. They help people who's really, job hunting, or even people who are hiring are there. And even nonprofits are welcome. I know that they have one in Virginia, which is where I'm at right now.
Oh, that's right. You're down in
Yes,
Norfolk right now. That's
I'm
right.
in Norfolk. I'm actually in Virginia Beach. So I'm here for the holidays, which is really exhausting.
Yeah.
So I, like, before I came here, I was at Tampa. So I did the Tampa IW hike, and it was amazing. I got to talk to so many first timers. There was about 239 veterans who
Oh
actually
wow.
showed up. Yeah, and it was a great hike. In like just the camaraderie and the vibe, and like the energy was so good. Everyone got along. We did have a special guest that was with us. I don't know if you heard, but in Camp Lejeune, there was two Marines that were murdered last month. Very, very young Marines. And so what happened was, I guess, and it's still under investigation by NCIS. And what I know is that somebody just came up to the barracks and just shot these Marines. And that's really unfortunate. And one of the Marines is a son of a friend of mine. And so my friend is also a Marine. He was active duty, and he is the leader out of Cleveland hike. So he came down to Tampa after dealing with all of that going on, and we really allowed ourselves to feel all the feelings, allowed him to grieve. We grieved with him. Yes. Our bond became even much stronger as a veteran family. And it's in those situations, there's nothing that we could say to make anything better.
No.
It's a tragedy. It's terrible. And it really sucks. But these situations, it could be anything. You could be going through a divorce. You could be going through death. You could be going through court litigations or something going on in your life. And what it does is it's an unconventional way to bring veterans out of isolation.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it helps us improve mental health. And it's been proven to work. And so even though this Marine veteran is going through the worst case scenario, he was able to take himself out of isolation and come down and be around like-minded people that know what it's like to have that loss, and know what that he's being accepted. So I think that was really powerful to have that. I also talked to another veteran. He's an Air Force veteran, a lot older than you and I, Cliff. And he was going through isolation because, he went through a divorce, and his older children pretty much ostracized him and stopped talking to him. And he's been going down a spiraling path. But having these events helps veteran get out of that. Yes. Get out of that hole or that isolation that they're in. And so I want to say that event, these events are not just for war veterans, but it's for all. It's for active duty veterans, reservists, retired. It's for all of us. It's for all of us to feel all our feelings together. We feel the good, the bad. You're going to laugh. You're going to laugh a lot. You're going to connect with people you don't know that you need to connect with. And you're going to cry because you're going to hear some stories that you may or may not relate to. And I was just talking to one of my veteran best friends, and, this is that time of the year where it's so hard for a lot of us veterans. You think about who should be here, why they're not here, or how come you're not around these people. During the holidays is the roughest time. We talked about how during the seasons you get the sad, right? Your sickness about the seasonal, you get the seasonal depression. Yeah. Well, it hits even worse during the Thanksgiving and the Christmas time and New Year's time, as you see everyone happy and, they're around family and people they love. And then you just think about those people who should be here, or the people who are no longer here, or you don't have, and I think that instead of thinking what you don't have or thinking about the negative, try to bring yourself out of that isolation. So that's what I've been up to.
Well, you've been really busy, but Lynn, you bring up a good point. Is this time of the year, a lot of veterans, and especially Vietnam veterans, they're alone, they're isolated, and whether it's from death or divorce or maybe by choice, it is a hard time of the year, and you got the time change. It gets dark now early, and so a lot of people this time of year do struggle, and I think and then when you compound it with what you talked about. That horrific story and dealing with that just makes things that much more worse. I will tell you that I talked about it earlier, but I was down at the Virginia Beach Convention Center with my car show. That was on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It ended on Sunday the 19th. And as I was down there on Friday, of course, my buddy Tom, who's been on the show, Campbell, I drove my car down the weekend before, my Mustang, to Yorktown, and then we loaded both of his car, because his car, he can't really drive that part of Virginia Beach because it's registered. We loaded onto his trailer, enclosed trailer, and then he hauled him down Friday night. Well, we get down there Friday night, and I'm not going to say who it is, but there's a fairly famous person in the monster truck arena. I'm not going to say his name because of the story he told me. I'm going to tell you the story. And my sons were a big fan of him. And I thought, well, you know what? My sons enjoyed making posters and going to Monster Jam and holding them up. Had such a good time.
Mhm.
And he gives so much. So I decided that I was going to sign a book and I was just going to walk up and give it to him. And that was just going to be it. And so I did. And he told me a personal story, a tragedy that happened in his family 4 weeks ago. And it just out of the blue. And so I stood there and like I always do, I listened and talk and it was something not expected, and I'm sure he wasn't expected to just arbitrarily get this book for no reason, and obviously with what I talk about in my book. But I think in a way that man might help with his healing. You never know when a kind gesture is going to affect somebody, and obviously I didn't know anything about that because I don't know him. And so that just kind of made me feel a little bit good. But as the show went on and I started visiting with the cars around me, I met a very nice gentleman. He was a submariner. He was in the Trident. Had been having a lot of PTSD issues, and so I struck up a quick friendship with him. Tom and I did, and had a lot of great conversations with him. And actually, before I left, I gave him a book, and then I gave him one of these T-shirts. Quit being a trigger fancy. And he was just kind of made his day. But there was another gentleman who wasn't part of the thing, and I was wearing my T-shirt, with what I say on the back of it.
Mhm.
And he said, "Man, I really love that T-shirt. That's a great saying on the back." And he thanked me for that, and I got a couple of that. And actually, the quit being trigger pansy when I wore it on Saturday probably got the most reactions from people.
Yeah, people love that shirt.
They do love that. They do.
Mhm.
They do love this shirt. But this was a my show. My car has never been in a national event. They were judged by professional judges, which I've never been through that before. And that's pretty nerve wracking, right? Because my car is very nice, but I've never had it at that level. And I kind of wanted to see where I would stand at that level, because it's a sense of pride for me.
Right.
And so they did all the trophies. Of course, I didn't get a trophy, but another gentleman told me, well, you need to go ask the judges and find out why you didn't get a trophy, right? Just out of curiosity, right? So what can I
Mhm.
change in the car? And so I went, and these judges I've seen on TV at a certain car programs I've watched. So I've seen him before. And so I went and asked him, and he said, "What car did you have?" I said, "I had a green Mustang." He's like, "Oh yeah, I remember that car." Now this guy judged over 200 cars. As a matter of fact, that he remembered my Mustang was kind of incredible. So he comes over there, and we walk around the Mustang, and so he's telling me all these things that I need to change. Not a lot, but all these little things that I never noticed that I need to change in the Mustang in the car show. And he says, "Well, I mean, to be honest with you, you were probably within 5 points of placing." And I thought,
Wow.
wow, really? 60 cars in my class? I'll take that all day long. But so, and the changes he was making was stuff that I didn't notice. Like if you saw a picture of my engine of my Mustang, I have some of my hoses are green braided, but
Mhm.
one of my hose going from my to my radiator is stainless. And he says, "See, I can't. Nothing flows evenly in here. So you need to either have all green or all stainless." That's something I didn't think about. And then I just had some minor issues with my paint. And then my center console, although it's very nice, is in
Mhm.
pieces. And he says it needs to be one piece. So while I'm in Italy
Oh.
and Tom's watching my car, I'm gonna have all those things fixed. And Tom and I have been talking about it. But it's amazing at car shows how many veterans I have conversations with.
Yeah.
And so many veterans attend the car shows. A lot of veterans are in the car shows with the cars themselves because it's therapy for them. I mean, it's visiting with other
Yeah.
veterans. It's reliving, um, their childhood or not childhood, but their younger days, and maybe they had this year Mustang or Tom's got the '67 Firebird, and um, it's just always amazing to go out and have those conversations and meet people, just like with your Reverend Warriors, although a little bit different. But I mean, there's times we'll
It's
have
actually the same
encouraging
thing. It's getting
conversations.
veterans out.
Yeah.
It's getting people out there and out of their
Mhm.
house and talking to other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did want to tell you that one of the gentlemen that I met was at the Pentagon during the
Mm.
time you were. So he was already retired from the Air Force. The older gentleman,
Yeah.
he was there, and
Oh,
it's
wow.
so crazy the connections that we make with different people and the similarities. I was like, oh my God, you have to read his book. It's The Mental Health Warrior. It's Clifford Bodman. You know,
Mm-hmm.
one of my friends, one of my best friends, Jessie, she connected with Robert. Robert's the one who lost his son
Yeah.
to the murder. They found out that they were both in Fallujah together, like
Oh,
in
wow.
possibly in the same exact combat room.
Wow, that's
Um,
crazy.
and then me, and then one of my friends, Cynthia, like I just brought her. It was her first time, and we found out we were both in Kaneohe Bay together in Hawaii. So it's just crazy the connections that you make when you go out, like not even just to these veteran events, but talking to other veterans, as you said.
I'm typing something here, put on that thing, but
Yeah,
um, it's yeah, you're right. It's so important, and it's just a small community, right? People don't
it's
realize that
such a
that
small
you're
world.
very small world, and you run
Mhm.
into people all the time who, oh yeah, did this or this, and I did that, and it's pretty amazing. But uh, so before I went to the car show, of course, I was at Hampton Sydney, and
Mhm.
I went there, and this is my first college event I did speaking, and I was first of all very honored to do that, and was super excited. And so my son was there, my older son, and he's kind
Oh,
of heard
cool.
me speak, but he hasn't a couple of times, but not really been in the room. Of course, now he helped set this event up with the lady that did it, so he was very excited, and he set the table up with the books and the T-shirts and everything, and like it was at 9 o'clock or 7:30 at night. And so I'm visiting with the students prior to and talking with them, and of course given my audience, I didn't go into gruesome details about things or a lot of things. I kind of kept it at
Yeah.
that level of understanding and stuff. But it was one of the largest events they've had with a speaker coming in. I was excited about that. But when I started talking to the students, and of course I'm very good at connecting with them when I'm telling my story of hope, and then making it relevant to them, at their age, is very important to me. But I don't script nothing. I don't have a pre-planned speech. I just speak from the heart. And that's one of the things that the students were saying when they were talking to the lady Renee who put the event on. Was they said that the other speakers that come in, everything was scripted. They read from a piece of paper. They did this, they did that. And what they appreciated is the fact that I didn't do that. That it was felt genuine to them and what
A
I
lot
was
more
talking.
authentic that way.
And then afterwards, so I made my book $10 for the college students.
Hmm.
Uh, and so several of them bought it, but a lot of them bought a book for their parents because their parents had served in the military, and then wanted me to sign it to them. I
Awesome.
thought that was so nice. But there was one gentleman in there that was in the guard, because one thing I talked about is if you're having issues in school, and it was because you had um, issues that you brought prior to coming to school, right? If you had whatever was going on in your health, mental health wise, before you came to school, it's just going to make things that much worse.
Hmm.
And I did have the main counselor there in charge of the center get up and speak before I did, because he was there, and a lot of students don't know who he is. But this one National Guard soldier who goes to school there came up and was talking to me, and he says, I do have some stuff that went on prior to me coming to school, and it's kind of hard for me to make that adjustment, have issues and things, and then we had that conversation. Now, of course, I'm not going to talk about what he talked about, but it's just I guess when you're trying to break the stigma with mental health, and with the younger generation, it's harder because it has become an option, and I don't know how you get away from that. Right? They'll make that decision like that. And for us, or for me, it was a process, right? It took me about a year to get to that point. And I talked about this in the speaking event, is we have to do something to change it. And one thing I told the students, I said, if you're in that dark room, or you're having bad thoughts, or something went wrong, get up and leave the room. Go to get out of that space and change your space. Because if you just sit there, and you know this well as I do, Lynn, you're just going to keep thinking about whatever you're thinking about over and over and over and over and over again. And then your thoughts are going to get darker, 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 darker. But one thing I've learned especially with me, the anxiety or something else is coming up, if I just change what I'm doing, it doesn't have to be a big thing, just go into a different room or go call a friend or go for a 10-minute walk outside or just do something different to change your mindset at that moment, really can have a profound effect.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like if you're just sitting there alone, like you said, it's a spiral effect.
Hmm.
Definitely changing the environment, even going to the kitchen. And like, I guess maybe that's why people open the refrigerator door so much.
Right,
You
and
know,
just sit there and stare at it.
or like you
But
stare at it and it's like,
yeah,
okay, that's the same stuff, but it's like getting you out of the other room and going in there, doing something a lot different.
yeah, that's it's hard, right? I mean, it's especially with college students, right? And so I wanted to try to convey to them that, one, it's okay to have bad days. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay to take that one test and have a bad test, and it's okay to have those days. But you have to kind of learn not to dwell on it and kind of let it go and move on. And if you can't, then go talk to somebody or find out why you can't let it go or why it constantly bothers you. And I think for a lot of us, especially veterans who are suffering, we can't let those certain thoughts go that easily.
Right.
Even as much as I talk about, there's times that I struggle and times that I don't.
I think it goes back to uh, that training that I had the other week at work, where you can only control yourself, and anything else around you that's making you angry or getting you riled up, you can't control those things. So you shouldn't be dwelling on, like, even if it's traffic. People get upset during traffic.
Hmm.
You can't control that. Like, it's gonna happen. Like, it's happening right this second. So why should I get upset? I'm gonna tell you a story. When I was driving back from Tampa with my
Hmm.
friend, he was driving back and he had a wheel bearing off. And so we're
Mm.
trying to drive 4 hours back to Jacksonville. We're like, okay, we think it's okay. We think it's okay. Well, we get about, I don't know, 2.5 hours in, and it starts going, doo, 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 doo,
Oh,
doo,
that's
doo.
not good.
Yeah, no, it's not good at all. And so thankfully, like I improvised. I was like, oh my God, we're like 5 minutes away from one of my friends in Deltona, Florida. I said, let's just try to coast it
Yeah.
to her house, and then we'll be able to like sit there and like try to repair it if we can. If not, at least like we'll figure it out. Well, we get there, and thankfully one of my friends and her son was there from Jacksonville. So it just so happened that they're there. And then they try to buy the new bearings, and then come to find out you need to get a new hub assembly. And you might know all this stuff because it's car
Yeah.
stuff. I'm not a
Hmm.
car person.
Right.
So we couldn't fix it in that time frame, and I had to be back in Jacksonville because I had to like unpack, pack, and do laundry and clean again so I can catch a flight the next day. Uh,
Right.
Thankfully, my friend's son was headed back to Jacksonville, so we were able to hitch a ride with him. So we left his vehicle there. Now, and the reason why I'm telling this story is because you can either like just try to make avoid like not get angry with the situation, right? So instead of getting angry, we're finding solutions.
Right.
So okay, dang, this happened. Like, are the cars going do 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 do? I'm so angry. I gotta be in Jacksonville tomorrow. Like, I could have like spent my time fuming and being angry and upset
Yeah.
that this happened, but this was totally out of anybody's control.
Yeah.
We could not control that. So instead of being upset, we found solutions. And
Yeah.
thankfully, at the worst case scenario, it happened like the best case happened from the worst case
Yeah.
scenario.
Right. You
So
didn't ride in
we
front
had
of
the
the side
best
of the road
options.
with your wheel
Yeah.
flying off.
We were able to go to my friend's house, and just so happened someone from Jacksonville was there, and we were able to hitch a ride back, and then he was going to come back the next day to take care of it. But my whole point is, like, if you can't control the situation, try to think of the positive or try to find a solution.
Hmm.
So that's what we did.
Yeah, that's a great point because it's just like out here. And one thing I had to learn living in Northern Virginia is dealing with traffic, right? And it used to piss me off,
Oh,
and I get mad and upset and
yeah.
scream and cuss. And I remember I had a friend of ours. We were going to lunch one day, right?
Hmm.
And the lady in front of me was just taking forever to turn left, right? And I was just sitting there, and I'm just, she'll turn whatever, and really wasn't working about it. And the person next to me, they were getting really itchy. It's like, why don't you turn? What's going on? And I'm just sitting there. So she went ahead and turned. And then I went. And they're like, you're like the most patient person ever. And I was like, why? Like, well, because that just irritated me that she was taking so long to turn. I said, yeah, but she had a car seat in the back. And she was probably had a child in it. And she's
Mm-hmm.
probably being safe to make sure she didn't cut in front of somebody so she didn't get hit. And, what does it matter to me if it takes 2 minutes for somebody to turn left or not, or a minute? It would probably won't even 30 seconds really. But, and that's one thing I've had to learn is just to be patient and not to let little things bother you. I had, I had dropped my car off at the body shop to get the bumper repaired because, I talked about the accident last time with the trailer popping off when I was going to Missouri. And, the Enterprise kid, I don't know, we had talking. He showed up late or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I was like, "Well, I'm okay. It's fine. Don't worry about it." So we got to talking, and he's like, "Man, I wish I could learn patience like you have." I'm like, "Well, you
Yeah.
just have to do it. You just have to not let little things bother you."
Yeah.
And it
Don't
kind of
sweat
makes things
small
different.
stuff.
Yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, does that 30 seconds really matter or not?
Mm-hmm. Like it's
Mhm.
really like, would you really let it affect your emotions and your mental health for that
Yeah,
little 10 seconds or
yeah,
whatnot? There's actually a book called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. And I read that when I was like in 10th grade back in like 2000. And I think that has helped a lot. And it's still out there because I've looked for it for my own kids so
yeah,
that they can read it. Because I've noticed that, oh, okay, you're stressing out over these things that you can't control. Don't
yeah.
sweat the small stuff.
And I think for a lot of people, that's it's a holiday. Right. We got Thanksgiving coming up, we got Christmas coming up. A lot of people are going to be traveling during those time frames. Traffic's going to be bad. Airlines are going to have delayed flights. I mean, there's going to be all kinds of crazy stuff going on. In the
A
end
lot.
run, you
Yes.
chose to travel. You chose to do these things, and you're just going to have to accept the fact there's going to be hiccups. And then so instead of being mad and upset at the airport and stomping around, do whatever, go walk around and look at things.
Mhm.
Go do something instead of just sitting there in that chair and stewing over something you can't control. And that's one thing I always do with my sons. If we get delayed flight or something, we just go walk around. I mean, we just go window shop or whatever.
I think for us, it's easier said than done because I think a lot of times people need to switch that mentality, right? Like,
Hmm.
go walk around, like, do find a solution.
Hmm.
You have to be like solution focused. Some
Hmm.
people like to dwell. Some
Yeah,
people, and unfortunately, I hate to say this, but some people like to have that victim mentality. And so it's that whole mentality you got to change. Do not play the victim.
yeah.
Instead, be your own hero. Find that solution.
But for a lot of people, it's easy to play the victim, right?
Yeah.
That's a role that they take on because it's easy, and a lot of them like the attention that it gets from them, right? I remember one time I was in a flight in Huntsville, Alabama, to fly back here, and
Hmm.
they pull the plane up the gate, it unloads, and then we're not loading. So of course, aviation maintenance, I know something's going on with that plane, and then they fire the plane up, and then they rev the engines up, right? And
Hmm.
right sitting at the gate, it's vibrating the windows, and then all of a sudden they shut it down. I'm like, oh hell, we ain't going nowhere. Well, then the announcers on the plane, there's a fuel pump, something going on. They're going to try to fly it up. This one girl behind me, she was just in a panic. Oh, I got to get, I don't know, I think she's going to New York or something. I got to get, and it's wintertime, right? I got to get there. I got to get there. And several hours passed. I couldn't get the plane fixed. So now the flight's going to be canceled. And I just walked up to the lady and says, hey, can you guys get me a hotel room here? Of course, they give you a voucher for the hotel, right? You don't have to pay for it.
Hmm.
And I'll
Hmm.
just take the next flight out in the morning. This one lady was so hell bent on getting what she wants. She was going to, now this wintertime, and there was a snowstorm going across. She was going to fly to Chicago to try to get on the late flight from Chicago to New York. I bet you she never even made it. Because if she made it
Yeah.
to Chicago, I knew she wasn't going to get out of Chicago because of the storm. I'm thinking, you're going to do all that and get in at 1 o'clock in the morning or midnight, where you could have just went and slept for 6 hours, 8 hours, whatever it was, and flew out the next morning and had no
Yeah.
issues at all. I mean, it's just
You,
crazy.
you, you know what? I can make that a smaller thing. It's like when people are in traffic, right? On the freeway, interstate, highway, or whatever. And it says, "Oh, it's red on your on now we have the maps where we can tell if it's like backed up or not."
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
red. And then so people will exit the next exit and then they're gonna do all these turnaround and back roads, but then they would have ended up in the same place anyway if they would
Right.
have just coasted and just like did that whole like 5 to 10 miles per hour
Yeah.
couple miles down, and then so they just end up the same place. It's just like they just have to keep moving for some
Yeah.
reason. And I bet she did. She wasted her time, and
Oh, yeah, I bet
it's
she
just
didn't,
people don't know
because
how to
I flew out
slow
of
down.
Chicago a lot. She probably never made it out of Chicago,
Mm-hmm,
because
mm-hmm.
a lot of times in the wintertime, if you're the last plane coming into Chicago, chances of you going back out are pretty slim.
Especially during a winter storm, and then you're gonna go to Chicago, which is like even colder, or
Oh yeah,
just as cold as New York.
I just like, I,
Yeah.
I'm just like, I just kind of looked at her and laughed and said, "Good luck," and
Mm-hmm.
got my
Mm-hmm.
luggage and went to my room. Because I
Yeah.
always, in my backpack, I always carry a change of clothes, no matter where I'm traveling. I don't care if it's a 2 hour flight. I always carry a change of clothes with me, my toothbrush and stuff in my backpack, just in case that happens. Because you never know. Because they're not going to get your luggage back off the plane. But that's just something that, as you guys are traveling this holiday season and go see your loved ones or whoever, just please have a little bit of patience. The people behind the counter, the people working, the flight attendants on the plane, the people on the bus or the train or whatever you're doing, they're working too. They're doing the best job they can do. And you'll always get farther with kindness than you will with
Right.
being angry or mad at something that you can't control. And if you feel that you're so infuriated or mad about something, check yourself, because it's not their fault, right? They don't control that. They don't do, that's out of their control. And they're just trying to make a situation as good as they can. And shame on you for acting that way towards them. It's time to quit being a trigger pansy and let the things go. That's my theme today.
Let it go, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of like the old saying my mom used to say: "You attract more flies with honey than you do with vinegar."
Yeah.
So definitely, kindness does go a long way.
Yeah, yeah, that's true, and I think that's a great point. But hey, just want to thank everybody for tuning in today. It's been a super fun show, getting caught up. I know, holidays are coming up here soon, so I know a lot of people are busy today. But hey, there's a QR code up there that has WAL. That's for Reads Across America Radio. They're coming up on the crunch time for the Reads for the veterans and the cemeteries. So please, if you can donate, just scan that with your phone. It's $5 to donate to Read. And it really helps to ensure that that a wreath is on that veterans tombstone, for the holiday season. It's a very, very important program, and I'm glad to be part of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm Arlington Cemetery, so just keep that in mind when you scan it. But if they oversell Arlington, then those wreaths go out to other cemeteries in the area that don't have enough to cover. So they try to cover all of them all across the United States. Remember, for Patriots, you go out there and if you want to get survival food or whatever, you can use that 10% coupon code at VTTGW. And Lynn, you want to tell them about our t-shirts on VeteranTrashTalk.com and our merch?
Get on VeteranTrashTalk.com and you can shop or listen to podcasts. All our merch is on there, as well as all our social medias. We're on everything: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok,
Oh, that's right.
YouTube. Find us on there, VeteranTrashTalk.com.
For all your great programming. But hey, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I do have my book on sale. So it's on sale for $19.99. I posted that. It's on my website, so you can get an autographed copy. I'm going to have that on sale here for the next week for the holiday season. Makes a perfect Christmas gift. Next week's show is going to be the video of my speaking event at Hampton, Sydney. So I'm super excited about that. We'll also be, maybe I'm going to have some of the students on that attended it. So super excited for that. But hey, everybody, you take care out there. And just remember what Lynn's mom said. What'd she say, Lynn?
You attract more flies with honey than you do with vinegar.
And that's right. And remember that you can watch this podcast again on Fridays at 8 p.m. and Sundays at 10 p.m. on Reads Across America Radio. Like I said earlier on, it's super easy to find. You just download your favorite radio app, iHeartRadio app, Tune app, or Odyssey app. Search for Reads Across America, and you can watch a replay not only of this great program, but all the great programs they have. But hey, everybody out there, you take care, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for watching and listening. And now a word from our sponsor, 4Patriots. In a startling description, the UN food chief warned the world with the words, knocking on famine's door. He called what we're facing a perfect storm of a perfect storm. And he's not alone. Barron's published that a food shortage could be coming, even in the US. Farmers see it too. John Boyd Jr., a fourth generation farmer, told Fox News that we're going to see empty food shelves in the coming months. That's why getting survival food is more important than ever now. Create your own stockpile of the best-selling 4Patriots survival food kits. It's not ordinary food. We're talking good for 25 years super survival food, hand-packed in a family-owned facility in the USA and giving jobs to over 200 Americans. They have different delicious breakfasts, lunches, dinners. You can make these meals in less than 20 minutes. Just add boiling water, simmer, and serve. And right now, for the next few days, listeners of the Veteran Trash Talk podcast will get 10% off their first order at 4patriots.com by using the code VTTGW. Go to 4patriots.com and use the code VTTGW to start your stockpile today.